Germany. It's a name that conjures up so many images, right? From ancient warriors in misty forests, all the way to a modern powerhouse at the very heart of Europe. But its story isn't a straight line. It's this incredible, often brutal saga of breaking apart and coming back together. So the big question is, how did this collection of scattered tribes and states become the Germany we know today? A nation that has, for better or worse, completely shaped the world we live in.
And that really gets to the heart of it, doesn't it? What forges a nation's destiny? Is it some grand idea of unity? Is it born from brutal conflict? Or is it something else entirely? A constant process of reinvention, often rising from the ashes of total disaster. As we're going to see, for Germany the answer is, well, it's all of the above.
All right, so to really get Germany, we have to travel way, way back. Back before there even was a Germany. We're talking about the deep, dark forests of a land the Romans called Germania. It was seen as the very edge of the known world, and its people were about to come face to face with the greatest empire on Earth.
So you've got this massive clash of worlds. On one side, you have the Roman Empire. Think organized cities, straight roads, the whole 9 yards, all backed by these incredibly disciplined legions. And on the other side, the Germanic tribes. They were scattered, rural, living in clans and led by warrior chiefs. This wasn't just some border skirmish, you know. This was a fundamental clash of two completely different ways of life, and it was about to set the course for the future of Europe.
Then, in the year 9 AD, something absolutely unthinkable happens. Deep in the Teutoburg forest, a Germanic chieftain named Arminius pulls off the impossible. He masterminds an ambush and completely annihilates 3 entire Roman legions. We're talking tens of thousands of soldiers. For Rome, this wasn't just a defeat, it was a soul-crushing blow. It stopped their expansion dead in its tracks and basically drew a line in the sand, a frontier that would define Germania for the next 400 years.
Okay, so fast forward a bit, the Western Roman Empire eventually falls apart and it's total chaos. But out of that chaos rises this legendary figure, Charlemagne, King of the Franks. This guy was a force of nature. Through decades of pretty brutal warfare, he manages to pull together all these different Germanic tribes into one massive Christian empire. And then, in the year 800, the Pope crowns him emperor. This was a huge deal. It wasn't just a new kingdom, it was an attempt to bring back the glory of Rome in the West. And in doing that, he planted the very first seeds of what might one day become Germany.
But here's the thing about grand visions. They don't always last. Charlemagne's unified empire turned out to be incredibly fragile. As soon as he was gone, his grandsons basically ripped it to shreds, fighting over the pieces. And what emerged wasn't a single strong nation, but something much, much more complicated.
And that something was the Holy Roman Empire. Now that's a seriously impressive sounding name, right? But the reality was, well, not so impressive. It wasn't really holy, it wasn't Roman, and it sure wasn't a unified empire. It was more like this crazy, dizzying patchwork of hundreds of little territories, duchies, kingdoms, free cities, you name it. Sure, they all technically answered to one emperor, but in reality, the local princes and lords held all the power. It was a recipe for constant division.
So you have this already fractured empire, and then in 1517, a single monk named Martin Luther lights a match. He challenges the all-powerful Catholic Church, and thanks to a revolutionary new technology, the printing press, his ideas spread like wildfire. Now, for a lot of the German princes, this wasn't just about religion. Oh no, they saw a golden opportunity. By becoming Protestant, they could break free from the emperor's control and grab a whole lot of valuable church land. This shattered what little unity the empire had left, splitting it right down the middle.
And that religious split, it led to absolute catastrophe. We're talking about the 30 Years' War, one of the most brutal and destructive conflicts Europe has ever seen. It was this horrific free-for-all mixing politics and religion, and it was fought almost entirely on German soil. The numbers are just staggering. By the time it was over, maybe up to 8 million people were dead. Whole regions were wiped off the map. The German lands were left completely broken and more divided than ever.
Okay, so from the ashes of that devastating war, a new dynamic starts to emerge in the German-speaking world. The old established power, Austria, suddenly finds itself facing a new challenger, a tough, ambitious, up-and-coming kingdom from the north called Prussia. And this rivalry, this is what's going to define the next chapter.
So, let's paint a picture of these two rivals. You've got Austria, run by the Habsburgs. They're old school, imperial, ruling over this vast, multi-ethnic empire.
They're the established top dog. Then you have Prussia. They're the new kids on the block, but they are lean, mean, and incredibly disciplined. It's a state built around its army, ruthlessly efficient. And with leaders like Frederick the Great, Prussia's military might turns it into a major European power, putting it on a direct collision course with Austria for control of Germany's future.
Now, something really important had happened during the Napoleonic Wars. The idea of German nationalism, of a single German people, really took hold. But the dream of uniting Germany through speeches, debates, and democratic ideals, well, that dream was about to be crushed. Germany wasn't going to be born from votes. It was going to be forged in the fire of blood and iron, thanks to the vision of one absolutely ruthless and brilliant man.
And that man was Otto von Bismarck, Prussia's minister-president. He was the ultimate political chess master, a practitioner of what they called realpolitik. Basically, practical politics, no room for idealism. And he's the one who famously said that the great issues of the day wouldn't be decided by speeches and votes, but by iron and blood. His goal was simple: unite Germany, but on his terms, under Prussia's leadership. And he had a plan to do it: 3 short, sharp, perfectly calculated wars. It was like watching a master at work. First, he picks a fight with Denmark to secure some key territory. Check. Next, he turns on his old rival Austria, engineering a lightning-fast war that kicks them out of German politics for good. Check. And for the final move, he cleverly provokes France into declaring war. The wave of German patriotism that followed was exactly what he needed to convince the southern states to join him. And just like that, in 1871, in the enemy's own palace at Versailles, the German Empire was proclaimed, an absolute masterstroke.
And once Germany was unified, its economy just exploded. It was like a rocket taking off. They had the coal, they had the steel, they had a super educated workforce, and a real knack for science and innovation. The new German Empire became an industrial giant, just breathtakingly fast. In just a couple of decades, they were outproducing Great Britain. This wasn't just an economic shift, it completely upended the balance of power in all of Europe. But all that new power, it was unstable. It needed a careful hand. After Bismarck was pushed out by the new, arrogant young Kaiser, Wilhelm II, things started to go wrong. German policy became aggressive, unpredictable. The careful web of alliances Bismarck had built to keep the peace was torn down, and without it, Germany, and all of Europe with it, started sliding toward the abyss.
And then it happened. 1914, an assassination in Sarajevo lights the fuse on this powder keg of European alliances, and the world plunges into the Great War. 4 years of unimaginable slaughter in the trenches ends with Germany's defeat. The Kaiser is gone, the empire collapses. And what replaces it? A peace treaty, the Treaty of Versailles, that was so harsh, so full of punishment, that it didn't end the conflict. It just planted the seeds for the next, even more terrible one.
Just look at the terms of this treaty. They were designed to absolutely crush Germany. First, the war guilt clause. Germany had to take 100% of the blame. Then the reparations, these massive, impossible payments that wrecked their economy. Their military was basically dismantled, and they lost huge chunks of land. This wasn't just a treaty, it was a national humiliation. And it created this deep, toxic resentment that extremist groups were just waiting to tap into.
And that's exactly what happened. In the chaos of the Great Depression and the failing German democracy, Adolf Hitler and the Nazi Party came to power. They preyed on that humiliation and fear. Once in control, they tore down democracy and built a terrifying totalitarian state. Their sick ideology of racial purity and their hunger for conquest led Germany and the world straight into the Second World War and the ultimate horror, the Holocaust.
By 1945, it was all over. Total defeat. And this time, the German state itself was completely dissolved. The country was just rubble. The victorious allies, the US, Britain, France, and the Soviet Union, carved it up into 4 zones of occupation. Germany wasn't a world power anymore. It wasn't even a player. It had become the stage for the world's next big conflict, the Cold War.
And as that old wartime alliance fell apart, Germany was split right down the middle along with it. By 1949, you officially had 2 Germanys. In the West, you had the Federal Republic of Germany, a democratic capitalist country allied with the US in the West. And in the East, you had the German Democratic Republic, a repressive single-party communist state, completely controlled by the Soviet Union. 1 people, 2 completely different worlds. And the ultimate symbol of this division, of course, was the Berlin Wall. This concrete monster went up in 1961, literally overnight, to keep East Germans from escaping to freedom. For nearly 30 years, it was this ugly scar, a symbol of oppression.
But then, in 1989, the people had had enough. Peaceful protests for freedom grew and grew, sweeping across East Germany. And on one unbelievable night, November 9th, the wall just fell. It was an incredible moment that marked the beginning of the end of the Cold War and started the process of making Germany whole again. And look at Germany today. From the absolute devastation of 1945, it has rebuilt itself into an incredible success story. A reunified Germany is now the economic engine of Europe, a major leader in the EU, and a strong, stable democracy. I mean, think about it. The journey from total division to unity, from the darkest tragedy imaginable to being a respected leader on the world stage, it's truly one of the most amazing transformations in modern history.
So when you look back, Germany's history is this powerful, constant push and pull between breaking apart and coming together, between destruction and rebirth. It really proves that a nation's identity is never set in stone. It's always evolving, always being reforged. After everything it's been through, after navigating such a turbulent past, you have to wonder, what's next? What will be the next chapter for this incredible nation, right at the very heart of Europe?